Welcome to another one of the video series for the Iowa Lakes Corridor Development Corporation's video project to introduce you to some of our businesses and our area partners. Today we are interviewing Jed Skogerboe with Iowa Lakes Electric Cooperative. Jed, tell me a little bit about yourself and your position.
Yeah, so my position is Manager of Business and Community Development at Iowa Lakes Electric Cooperative. What that really is, I do our key accounts management and I help with our economic development. Iowa Lakes Electric Cooperative covers 7.5 counties. We cover all of Cherokee, Buena Vista, Pocahontas, Clay and Palo Alto, Dickinson, Emmett, and the north half of Kossuth County. So we cover a pretty broad area. We've got about 13,000 meters, a little over 13,000 meters in our system, and a lot of manufacturing, ag-related accounts and different things like that.
So specifically in your position, how do you advocate for rural economic development?
So my goal with economic development is anything that we can do to get new load to Iowa Lakes is really a plus for the cooperative. If I can help get a load that's not going to land on our service territory or in our service territory to land within the footprint of our service territory, that's my second goal. And in the state of get it in the state of Iowa would be the third goal out of all of that.
So you and I work together on a number of projects, but talk a little bit about what programs and offerings come from Iowa Lakes Electric Co-op for our businesses.
Okay, so the one that's used most often is our revolving loan fund, and then there's the USDA Rural Development, Rural Economic Development Loan and Grant Program. Those are the biggest ones that we use. Recently, we've just finished up the sale of the spec building in Spirit Lake. That was made possible through the Iowa Lakes Corridor Future Fund, which the corridor established to access those USDA funds for some of that 0% financing money.
Right. So you open the door for my next question, which is, tell me about a couple projects that you've been a part of that are just exciting or that stick with you throughout your time in economic development.
Okay, well, the spec building would be one. That was one of my projects coming out of the management internship program for the Rural Electric Cooperatives. When I went through that, you had to have a keystone project that you presented and promoted, and mine was to do a 30,000 square foot spec building in Spirit Lake, and we got that approved by the board and got that project done. And finally, as typical with all spec buildings, 5 years into the ownership of it, we got it sold. So that was kind of a fun thing to be involved with. Some housing projects in different areas. We've been participated with the dwellings project up at Spirit Lake. That's been a big project that we participated with through our revolving loan fund, and developing 84 new condo townhome type units there on the east side of Indian Hills Golf Course. Yeah, those would be the biggest things at this point that fall in the corridor footprint.
Yeah, okay. So also, want to talk a little bit about your involvement with the corridor specifically. So Tim McCloy, your current president and CEO, is on our board. You've served on the board. Why is that a priority of Iowa Lakes Electric Cooperative to continue the strong partnership with the corridor?
So the biggest thing is that we believe that growth leads to growth, and it leads to health for financial health for everybody that's involved in the area. For us, growing electric load is important. We've got a lot of fixed costs, and as those costs continue to rise with wages and equipment and everything else, growing load helps cover all of those costs, and that's really important to the co-op.
Yeah, I would agree. Another related question: why? In your perspective, what is beneficial in functioning as a regional economic development organization?
The biggest benefit out of all of this is the partnerships that you develop. Again, we work with the corridor, we work with the local economic development folks. We've partnered with SMU on a project here in Spencer through the USDA programs. So just the partnerships that you have and the relationships that you build, those are all really important.
Yeah. And what do you see changing?
Biggest changes I see coming, not really changing. It's the ongoing housing and workforce, and how do you manage both of those and grow at the same time? So when there's always the competition for labor and trying to get people hired, and at the same time trying to recruit new businesses in, how do you do that without stepping on the toes of your existing accounts?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So another thing that I think we as economic developers have to do is be creative and think a little bit differently. And so I love the opportunity to go visit businesses with you and just talk through projects. So again, kind of circling back to some of your programming, talk me through that process of a project coming into your office and just how you work through some of that.
So the first thing that we do when we have a project come in is determine, does it fall in our service territory? That opens up some doors if it does, as far as the USDA programs, the pass-through loan, we require those to be on our system. If they're outside of our system and they qualify for the grant program, our board will sponsor those. The grant program helps us build a revolving loan fund. Our revolving loan fund is open to everybody. I mean, there's some limitations, a minimum of $25,000, maximum of $250,000 on our loan program, but all of those, anybody that applies for that has a good project and has good financial support for the project would qualify, and our board is very receptive to passing those, whether they are in our footprint of service or outside.
Okay. That's exciting. So I'm going to give you the opportunity to just give me one word that you would use to describe the corridor. What would that be?
A partner, forward thinking, and focused on growth. It's more than one word, but that's what I've got.
We'll take it. So in your position, just circling back, because the electric partners are such an important part of the work that we do, whether it be helping fund our organization or helping bring leads. A lot of what you guys are doing too is telling the story of the region that you serve outside of the corridor. So we really didn't talk much about attraction. We talked about what happens when projects get here, but tell us a little bit about what you do to just raise awareness of what an outstanding area of Iowa we live in.
I mentioned a little bit about some of our local economic development arms that we've done some things with. One that's really a fun story for me is the Grettinger Economic Development Council. They've applied for another revolving loan fund loan, but this will be the 21st spec home that they've done in the community of Grettinger community, about 800 or 900 people.
Wow.
So the fact that they're looking forward enough to focus on, we have to have housing for our people. They've got a great business there in EPS, and they need to have housing for their staff. So they are doing what they can to bring that forward. This most recent application and the previous one, they've utilized the Homes for Iowa program. Their homes are built in the prison, I believe in Fort Madison, and then they're shipped up and put together and put on a foundation. So that's been a neat project to see happen.
Yeah. So any final thoughts on economic development, on the celebration of Manufacturing Week and what it means to the corridor area?
On economic development, it's really important that people support the economic development organizations. Nothing happens fast. Nothing happens fast, and a lot of times a project will take 2, 3, 5 years to get everything to fall together and make it happen the way you'd like to see it happen. And sometimes you put all that work in and you lose it. And you just have to understand that that's the way things work.
Right. Well, perfect. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.